Hello there. Welcome to World of the Lost. I'm Linda Simmons and I'm back with another mysterious story from the foggy shores of Nova Scotia. In my last episode, I told the story behind the name Murder Island. It's a name that has lingered along this coast for generations, dark, unsettling, and tied to violence long past. And within that story, there was a ship, a brigantine called Baltimore. The Baltimore itself is a mystery within a mystery. It entered Chebogue Harbour in December of 1735 under circumstances that have never been fully explained. So in this episode, I want to more closely explore the mystery of a ship with a story that's difficult to unravel. In December of 1735, the brigantine Baltimore entered Chebogue Harbour near Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. It appeared one day and sat at anchor for several days. Seeing no activity aboard the ship and no one coming ashore, a party of Acadian settlers rowed out to the ship to investigate. After hailing and receiving no answer, they boarded the vessel and found a strange scene. There was blood on the deck, but no captain, no crew, not even any bodies. But yet, with no crew aboard, the ship had somehow been brought into the harbor and set at anchor. In another strange twist, in the captain's quarters, they found a woman, the only living soul aboard the vessel. She identified herself as Mrs. Susanna Buckler, the wife of the vessel's captain, Andrew Buckler. According to her account, the ship had come into local waters to collect fresh water, and that when servants had been sent ashore to wash linens, they were set upon by the Mi'kmaq who killed them. That left those on board the ship without a boat to go and collect water. That those aboard the ship all perished for want of fresh water except her. Then she said that the Mi'kmaq had boarded and rifled and stolen the cargo from the vessel while she hid herself. She said the men were killed and that some may have been carried away. These were serious accusations, but there were enough inconsistencies and questions that her account raised serious doubts. Her story was filled with more questions than answers, like why a crew, dying of thirst, would not ground that ship in order to survive, and where were the bodies of all those who perished? Some historians have suggested what seems like a good possibility, that whatever happened aboard the Baltimore did not come from outside the ship at all, that the violence may have begun within the ship, likely something much closer to mutiny than any outside attack. And if that were the case, then the woman's story becomes something else entirely. It's not a survivor's account anymore, but a version of events that was untrue and told for a reason. And when lies get told, it's usually to cover something up or to protect the teller of the story in some way. So the woman was sent, along with the ship, to Annapolis Royal, the seat of British power in Nova Scotia, and thoroughly questioned by Lawrence Armstrong, the Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia. British officials in Annapolis Royal would have pressed her for details. How many men were aboard? Where did the attack occur? How many attackers were there? What weapons were used? Why were there no bodies recovered? Why had no captives been reported? Her answers were vague enough that they could not be proven nor disproven, but every inconsistency tightened the circle of suspicion. And the stakes were high. It was important that British officials learn the truth. If she falsely accused the Mi'kmaq of killing British sailors, that accusation carried a lot of weight. It could influence tensions and it could justify retaliation against the Mi'kmaq. Authorities could not afford to accept her claim without proof. After some time in Annapolis Royal, she was sent aboard a ship bound for Boston. But within days of Mrs. Buckler having departed for Boston, a letter arrived. It came from Barbados. The real Mrs. Buckler, Mary Buckler, was living there and was inquiring about the fate of her husband. She indicated that her husband's ship had been carrying convicts to the colonies. But by the time the letter arrived, the woman from the Baltimore was safely out of reach on her way to Boston. Lieutenant Governor Armstrong would write to the Council of Trade and Plantations on November 23, 1736, stating that he supposed that the 60 or 70 convicts on the ship turned on the captain and crew and committed a most barbarous massacre. He also suggested that the woman claiming to be Mrs. Buckler was deep involved in the guilt. So, let's look at who she may have been. She was an unidentified woman from a vessel where men had vanished and blood stained the deck. Some researchers believe, as did Lieutenant Governor Armstrong, that she was indeed a convict and involved in a bloody escapade. It's suggested by an article in the Virginia Gazette late in 1736 that she may have been a Miss Matthews who had been sentenced to death for theft and was a prostitute in Dublin. It certainly wasn't unusual for the British government to send convicts to the New World to relieve their overcrowded prison conditions, but that theory raises its own questions. A convict's clothing would not resemble that of a ship's captain's wife, and if the captain's wife were not on board, where would a convict have gotten the clothing to present herself as a woman of some means? Impersonating a woman of rank in a frontier colony was a dangerous gamble. If the ship was carrying convicts, she may well have been one, and able to pull off the charade of being a ship captain's wife. Or she might have been a passenger with a past that she didn't want revealed. Much later accounts suggest that she was imprisoned and possibly executed in Boston, though this is questionable. We don't have any trial testimony or transcripts. What we do have are letters and doubts about her story, and a ship that arrived without witnesses. It seems unlikely that we'll ever know what happened aboard the Baltimore. We know only this: a brigantine entered Chebogue Harbour in December of 1735. There was blood on the deck, there were no sailors left to give their account, and there was one woman who stepped ashore carrying a name that was not hers. Whether she was a passenger, a servant, a companion, or something far more entangled in what happened aboard that ship, whether she lied out of fear or out of necessity, we will likely never know. And like so many stories along this coast, the answer lies somewhere between the records and the tides. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments on who you think this mysterious woman may have been: a convicted thief or a woman with something else to hide. If you enjoyed this story and want to keep exploring these mysteries with me, please like and subscribe. There are lots more stories waiting along this coast, and I'd love to share them with you. Until next time, stay curious.